It's time for the standing 8 count. I got my man with here, CURRAN BHATIA. You know him from the Ask the Expert podcast. He's the host of that. Former HBO boxing producer, multiple Emmy Award winner. And we're here to talk about some boxing. Obviously, a lot of the rounds that we're going to talk about is from this Wilder fight, his knockout over Ortiz. I know you watched the fight, CURRAN. What are your initial thoughts on everything that went down?
He had a decent right hand, right? I think he has a little bit of power, this guy.
I feel like there's a conversation that's going on Twitter that's just going to light up Twitter now. Went from pound for pound to how powerful that right hand was. But what was your initial reaction to that knockout?
I was shocked because Ortiz is doing his thing, and then boom, just like that. So obviously very impressive by Wilder.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Wilder, we're going to talk about Mayweather, we're going to talk about the PBC belts. Let's get right into it. Our first round here on the standing 8 count. Obviously, Deontay Wilder admittedly was not winning any rounds in this fight. No. Larry Hazard may have had it the other way, but he was down on the cards. What my question for you, CURRAN, is his game plan of looking for one shot too risky?
The answer is yes, it is too risky. Now, it's worked out for Wilder so far. Obviously, he's knocked out most of his opponents. But in this fight against Ortiz, he was down on the scorecards. One scorecard 58-56 for Ortiz. The other two were 59-55. He was losing this fight, and he actually admitted that. Post-fight, he went up to the desk at Fox and he said, "Hey, I'm losing the fight on most scorecards, but I find my right hand." It is a risky strategy because one day he may end up against someone who can kind of box and move, who has a chin, and he may not be able to find that right hand. So my answer to that question is yes, it's too risky.
I wouldn't even know if we would kind of categorize it as a game plan or just what Deontay Wilder is at this point in his career. You're not going to change who he is. He's 34 years old. He got a late start in the boxing game, and he's come a long way. If you took in the last 5 years, go back to his fights early on with Stavern, he was a little more wild. But what you have here with JD's and Mark Breland, who had one of the best jabs and one of the best amateurs of all time, is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's take with Deontay Wilder. They're not gonna teach him how to jab. They're not gonna teach him the finer aspects of boxing at this point in his career. But what they are gonna do is look at his footwork. What it comes down to is him getting in range to land that right hand. Watch how next time you watch a Wilder fight, watch how he moves in a little bit. He moves in, he puts that rangefinder out there. Behind every great right hand for Deontay Wilder is a rangefinder jab. He does have a very good jab as well. He's one of only 3 fighters that land more than 30% of their jabs, the others being Anthony Joshua and Gennady Golovkin. But when it comes down to it, I think don't change who you are at this point. Just kind of refine what you do. And what he has is the most powerful right hand in the heavyweight division today in boxing and maybe of all time.
If they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, like you said. But it kind of is broke, and I'll tell you why. It's worked so far against every opponent except Tyson Fury, right? Wilder was trying to find the right hand all night. He finally found it in the 12th round, and obviously we know Fury got up and it was a draw. But it was a close fight, and he almost didn't get the knockdown there. So that is bad for Wilder if he can't find that right hand. And guess who his next opponent is? Tyson Fury. Supposedly in February of 2020, they're trying to make it come together for February 22nd at T-Mobile Arena. But what if Fury boxes again? Fury has a decent chin, and what if Wilder isn't able to find him? So I think it's too risky of a strategy. Now, to your point about Wilder not learning new things, I guess it was reported by Joe Goosen on the broadcast. He said Wilder's team is working on new things in the gym. They're trying to teach a special secret punch, which I guess was a right hook that he was working on.
I think it was that left. Something I saw from Wilder in this fight that I had not seen was a quick looping left hook.
Right.
Like a quick one. He actually hit Ortiz with a few of those, maybe that. But like you said, I don't think they're going to change him, nor should they. They should just refine everything they're doing with him.
There's a couple things that are always true in boxing. There's always going to be big knockouts in the heavyweight division. And now in modern day, there's going to be big discussion on Twitter. Deontay Wilder, one of the most polarizing figures in boxing. So as soon as he knocked out Ortiz, the debate started on Twitter. So let me ask you this, Dan. Is Deontay Wilder one of the highest, most powerful punchers in heavyweight history?
Yeah, it's funny. We went away from the fighter of the decade conversation on Twitter. And now we're talking about the power of Deontay Wilder, where it stacks up all time in the heavyweight division. I don't know. It's just like a pound for pound debate. It's very subjective. Boxing is one of the most subjective sports out there. There's not a man out there that's tasted the power of Ernie Shavers, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder, or whoever you have on your list. So how do you really gauge how do we gauge what is the most powerful fighter? I like to listen to the fighters out there. A lot of fighters weighed in, a lot of current fighters weighed in, and they all said that Deontay Wilder has earth-shattering power, has generational power. But the main thing is now Deontay Wilder's in the discussion. He's in that room. He's in that air there. So I think we need to kind of just accept what it is and kind of be like, you know what? We have our guy in our division, in our generation, that stacks up with these mythical, guys that we never thought we'd be in the same discussion with.
He's certainly in the conversation. Obviously, people are now comparing his power to Mike Tyson. If you look at his knockout percentage before the fight, it was 95.2%. Now it's up to 95.3%, so it's slowly creeping up there. He's also in the discussion in other ways, right? He defended his title 10 times, so that's been done only by Ali, Holmes, Lewis, and Klitschko. So he's in the conversation, in the rare air, so to speak, with the other great heavyweights. He's becoming part of that story, and so you're going to have to start putting him in these mythical debates, and that includes, heavyweights of all time, that includes the best of the era, that includes the most powerful puncher, and that's what we're talking about. And I think part of it is that he has these spectacular knockouts, and that just adds to his overall aura.
And I think the boxing purists out there, and there's a lot of them in the boxing world, they have a hard time putting him in that conversation with some of the all-time greats in the heavyweight division, like a George Foreman, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, go down the list, because Deontay Wilder is a flawed fighter. But that's what makes him exciting. We're not talking about who is the best heavyweight of all time, because it's not Deontay Wilder, it's who's the most powerful puncher. And when it comes to the heavyweight division, and I've noticed this, when you take a look at the pound-for-pound rankings, it's very rare you see a heavyweight in the top 5, because they are not looked at as sweet scientists. They're more looked at as powerful punchers. That's what Deontay Wilder is. And another thing is, we need to just kind of accept the fact that we are living in a great time in the heavyweight division, not only because it's never been more exciting or hasn't been this exciting since the mid-90s, but we have a guy in Deontay Wilder who's giving us those highlight reel knockouts, who's giving us those Mike Tyson moments. Current, we're generally the same age. We have to just hear stories about the power of Mike Tyson or the power of George Foreman or Ernie Shavers. Now we have our guy here, Deontay Wilder, who is an American, who's brash, who talks a lot of smack. So let's accept Deontay Wilder for what he is rather than talk about everything that's wrong with him.
Exactly. It's not exactly what you said. It's not the best heavyweight of all time. It's saying the best puncher of all time. It's like saying Steph Curry is the best shooter of all time. He's not necessarily the best basketball player of all time. So that's kind of where the debate is at. Now, you also have to look at, Deontay Wilder has said this before, and I think it was definitely proven true. He only has to be right for 2 seconds. Everyone else that he fights has to be right for 12 rounds. So he only has to be right for 2 seconds. And if you look at the punch statistics provided by CompuBox, Ortiz landed 35 punches, Wilder landed 34. But it was that 34th punch that put Ortiz down and out.
If you heard that collective sigh of relief after Wilder-Ortiz was over, that was the top-ranked executives knowing that they now have the rematch that has been marinating for over a year. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, supposedly scheduled for February 22nd in Las Vegas, we think. Curran, my question for you here is, who has the edge going into the rematch?
I'm going to give the edge to Deontay Wilder in the rematch against Tyson Fury, and I'll tell you why. I think Deontay Wilder is actually getting better, and I think he showed that in his fight against Ortiz. Now, we know the strategy was risky to kind of wait and see till you get the opening for the right hand, but if you notice, when he did get the right hand, he set it up beautifully with his left. He actually was blinding Ortiz. He said he worked on that in the gym, to blind you with the left hand, and then boom, the right hand comes in over the top. He worked on that in the gym, and I think he's actually improving those skills. Obviously, we know he got into boxing late at 19 years old, so he's still kind of evolving. Tyson Fury, on the other end, he's doing a lot of things, right? He did wrestling, a WWE match. He wants to fight in MMA. He's recording music. I don't think his head is in it the same way that Deontay Wilder is. And Deontay Wilder also said post-fight that he feels good about keeping the continuous training camps going, right? He's kind of building off. He said shape on top of shape. So I give the edge to Deontay Wilder.
I just actually listened to that song that Tyson Fury did with Robbie Williams called Bad Sharon. Want to check it out on Spotify. I just gave Tyson Fury a plug here. But I give Deontay Wilder the slightest of edges heading into the rematch. Mainly because I think that Tyson Fury is a much better fighter than Luis Ortiz is in every aspect of the game. I think he has a better jab. I think he lands it more often. I think Tyson Fury has a very underrated power punch with that right hand. He actually cracked Wilder a few times when Wilder had him hurt, vice versa in that 12th round. But I'm giving the slightest of edges to Deontay Wilder, mainly because of the less wear and tear since their first fight. I mean, look at Deontay Wilder. He had 1 round against Dominic Breazeale. This fight with Luis Ortiz, he only got hit with 35 punches. None of them actually hurt him. And then you took a look over at Tyson Fury, which you just highlighted. You know, all the distractions. But let's talk about the fight he had with Otto Wallin. He did not think it was going to go that long. He did not think that there was going to be a 46 stitches in his eye. So I think that Tyson Fury has taken a little more of the wear and tear. You know, the weight fluctuation, I do think you have to play a role here too, but I give Deontay Wilder the slightest of edges, mostly because of the momentum that he has going into the rematch.
And the other thing that you have to look at is how the first fight ended. Now, in that 12th round, we all know Deontay Wilder found the right hand with the left hook. Tyson Fury went down. Now, I spoke to Deontay Wilder. He feels like Jack Ruiz had a slow count. I spoke to Jack Ruiz. Jack Ruiz feels like he did the correct count, of course. Now, I took a stopwatch to it. I had 9.98 seconds. So on my count, that means Wilder was 0.02 seconds away from getting the knockout, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. With that all said, I actually think Wilder probably found something, that opening, on what to do on Tyson Fury, and I think he'll be able to do that again in the rematch.
And also, I think that Wilder can't figure out Fury. I think Fury is in his mind, and that style is going to give Wilder fits, and he's a better boxer than Ortiz.
We have a massive heavyweight fight coming up. Anthony Joshua, I should say Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua, right? That's going to be on December 7th on the Zone. Now, it's been a little quiet in terms of what's going on in their training camps. We see Ruiz from time to time, photos emerge, we see him on Instagram. From the Joshua side, not so much. But, Dan, I'm going to read a quote to you that came out recently. Joshua talking to Sky Sports, and I'm going to read it to you. He said, "I'm fighting the best man in the world now. I'm going to whoop him and show you how great I am. They think he's so great, so when I beat him, I want everyone to bow at my feet and tell me how great I am." There hasn't been a lot of storylines for this fight. Should we be reading into this quote?
I don't know how I take that quote. Like, what's the context of it? I mean, is Anthony Joshua, was he laughing while he said it? Was he dead serious? Was he looking into the eyes of whoever he was talking to at Sky Sports? So, we spent some time with Anthony Joshua. He's a very charming guy. Like, he told us some jokes. He was cracking jokes the entire time we were with him. He even made that line of, if I beat Andy Ruiz, I'm fighting the guy at the end of the bar. I'm fighting a bum. If these guys are all going to fight bums, let me fight a bum. So I got to know how he said it. But I'll tell you what, I do like that he said this. I feel like he's maybe getting his swag back just in time. I know he just landed it in Saudi Arabia. Maybe he's getting closer to the fight. So he's amping up the rhetoric a little bit. But it is nice to see, because I feel like he was a little too laid back at times, especially heading into that fight. I went back and watched the One Night documentary on the Zone, which I thought was phenomenal. Mike Tyson, unbelievable. But I thought that Joshua, watching his ring walk, watching him in the ring before the anthems, so laid back, so chill. I want to see that killer come out in Joshua. Maybe he'll start fighting like he did in the first 16 fights of his career.
We know that the rematch is going to be a battle of adjustments, right? They're fighting 6 months later. Who can make the adjustments? Now, like we said, we haven't heard a lot about Joshua. He's kind of been in that Superman fortress of solitude, right?
That small house he lives in on the cribs.
Right. Making those changes, kind of trying to stay focused, right? He not a lot of media going on. So who can make the changes? Now, on the flip side, with Ruiz, it seems like every week there's a new photo emerging of him where he looks like he's slimming down more and more. I personally think Joshua is going to make the correct adjustments. He's going to be more technical. I think it's going to be a more boring fight. Right? I think it's going to be like Joshua's fight against Joseph Parker, where he's going to work the jab, work from the outside, not open up too much. And I actually think for Ruiz, it's what we've been talking about. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's been at a good consistent weight, 250, 260 pounds. I don't think he should lose too much for the rematch. My official pick, because I know that the next time we speak will probably be after the fight, my official pick is Joshua. What's your pick?
I'm on the other side. I think Ruiz is going to win. I was leaning Joshua for a while, but like you said, I think that he has his number. I think Ruiz has Joshua's number, and I actually asked this to Andy Ruiz when we got to interview him. I said, everyone's talking about what AJ's doing wrong or what AJ needs to change, AJ's psyche, but for you just have to go in there and do everything you've been doing your whole career. Throw punches and bunches, let your hands go. So I ultimately think December 7th, Andy Ruiz knocks out Anthony Joshua once again, and then we have to start talking about maybe Ruiz versus Wilder. That throws a wrench into his plans with Fury. We're going to shift away from the heavyweight division and get into the rumor mill. Boxing would not be boxing if we didn't talk about some rumors. The biggest star of yesteryear, Floyd Mayweather, goes on Instagram and declares that he is returning in 2020. Some rumors and some details are starting to come out with a UFC fight and Dana White. They're at a basketball game together. He was reposting everything Floyd Mayweather was saying, but things are starting to trickle out. Maybe we see a boxing match and then a fight against a UFC star. Curran, my question for you, we've heard this once before, or twice before, or 3 times before from Floyd Mayweather. Are we taking this rumor serious?
Boxing and rumors go hand in hand. You know what else goes hand in hand? Fighters coming out of retirement. Floyd Mayweather has come out of retirement before. He fought Conor McGregor. He fought exhibition matches. I actually think he wouldn't have made that statement unless he really is planning something. Obviously, the rumor mill is going crazy. So we've heard maybe a rematch against Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, in the first fight, Manny versus Floyd, Manny said his shoulder was hurt, so it kind of gives him some credibility to say, hey, let's get the rematch going. The other name is, of course, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's in UFC, and we know that the Dana White also reposted Floyd's post, kind of hinting that there may be a boxing match there between Floyd and Khabib. I doubt that we ever see Floyd Mayweather in the octagon. I don't think he's going to go into MMA. I think he's going to stick to boxing where he's comfortable. Those are the rumors, and I expect to see something because we know what Floyd Mayweather loves more than anything is money, and these are big money-generating events.
Yeah, all the thing he likes is attention, and look at the timing of this. He always seems to make these declarations that he's coming back, days before a big event. He did it with Canelo Triple G. He upstaged them with the McGregor fight. He's done this before. This time, he upstaged his own event, which is a new wrinkle from Floyd Mayweather. He is a co-promoter of Deontay Wilder and Mayweather Promotions that put on the fight with Ortiz. But I really think that Floyd has backed himself into a corner here. He made such a big proclamation with this saying he's going to come back, having Dana White in his corner, that I think he has to fight now. I think it's not going to be an exhibition, and if it's going to be one of these fights, it's going to be a UFC guy like Khabib, like you just named, then the other one has to be a legitimate boxing guy. And it's not going to be Canelo Alvarez because Canelo's sitting there at 175, 168. That fight's not going to happen. It's not going to be the other big welterweight. It's not going to be Errol Spence because he's just too damn big and he's too damn good. And it's also not going to be Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford can post all the pictures he wants on Instagram of them together. That's not going to happen. So that means the only logical opponent, money-wise and for an actual even fight, or maybe not, is with Manny Pacquiao. Now, Manny Pacquiao coming off of those 2 great performances over Broner and Keith Thurman. Does he really want to get into the ring with Manny Pacquiao at this stage? I think Pacquiao is the fresher fighter. I think obviously he's got more momentum because he's actually been fighting. Floyd hasn't been in the ring since 2017. That was against McGregor. Go back, his last fight against an actual fighter was Andre Berto in 2015. So I think Floyd really backed himself into a corner here, and he has to fight his way out.
Here's what we know. Floyd Mayweather is 42 years old. He's not going to take risks at this point in his career. We know he loves money. His exhibition fight against Tenshin in Japan, he made $9 million. If he fights Pacquiao again, let's say he gets half of what he made last time. We're still talking in the $100 million range. But you brought up something interesting. Terrence Crawford posting that photo. Let's make that fight happen, man. I want to see that fight. Crawford versus Mayweather. I doubt it'll ever happen, but I would love to see that one happen. All right, moving along here on standing 8 count. So, Bill Wanger, who's the Fox Sports EVP, is in charge of boxing over there. He came out and said recently that they're going to create a PBC belt. We have a lot of belts in boxing, Dan. Should there be a PBC belt?
Listen, I like to look at things, when I presented a new idea, I like to look at all the variables here. The pros and the cons of everything when weighing a decision like this and when weighing a new idea. And I simply cannot come up with one positive thing when it comes to adding more belts in boxing. This is a sport that is rich in meaningless belts, and we're about to add more meaningless belts to the equation here. I do not understand how this can possibly be a good idea.
It definitely can. That's the whole problem with the sport, is too many belts. But one thing is interesting. I interviewed Deontay Wilder and I said, hey, I know that you don't want the WBC franchise belt, but would you want the PBC belt? And you know what his answer was? Yes, because he likes that there's no sanctioning fees. So
well, how do we know that? Do we know that's for certain?
That's what they're saying, that the PBC belt won't have sanctioning fees. So he likes that approach. He likes having a belt where there's no fees involved. Obviously, we know that the sanctioning bodies, they charge fees. They charge fees for their interim titles, for their emeritus titles.
That's how it's a racket.
That's how they make their money. So it is interesting that they're trying to do a different type of belt, but overall, it's not a good thing to have more belts.
If this was 2015 and it's January 2015 and the PBC was about to be forming in a few months, I would be all for it, and that's what I thought the PBC was going to do. This is an idea that would have made sense then. Then I would have said maybe we can have an idea here where the PBC could have their own champions and they can start a league and they can really identify themselves and separate themselves from the rest. and have a PBC champion. Now, you're just giving another belt to another guy. And also, does this mean that the title holders, let's say Errol Spence fights in his next fight, should he come back, I think he will, and he wins a PBC belt, does that mean he relinquishes his other straps? And then what? Who gets those other straps? More fighters, therefore more belts. I think it would have been a good idea if it was PBC was the only show in town, and I think that we are light years away from just having one entity in boxing.
We are light years away. Zuffa Boxing, Dana White said he's not going to recognize the belts that we have, so he's going to make his own belt. And the other problem with this is that now we're making belts with contingencies, right? So the franchise belt that the WBC made, it means that the person who has that belt can go in multiple weight classes, but they don't necessarily lose it when they lose. It's voted on by a panel. So now it throws a wrench in everything, because let's say you have, like you said, Errol Spence has the PBC belt. He fights Terrence Crawford. Let's say Terrence Crawford wins, hypothetically. Is Terrence Crawford going to defend the PBC belt on ESPN? Yeah. I don't think so. So we certainly don't need more belts, and we certainly don't need more belts with contingencies.
Yeah, it's starting to get like a WWE, WCW vibe to it, where it's like, I'm going to steal your belt, bring it over to Nitro, and you're the champion of Raw. It's getting out of control, and I think he meant well, Bill Wanger, with these comments.
Right.
But maybe it's just a plan. I mean, he didn't say for sure it's going to happen, but it seems like PBC has a plan, and when they have a plan, they usually execute it. Curran, the news cycle moves so fast in this country, and it also applies to the boxing world. Last week, we were arguing about Fighter of the Decade. Now we're talking about Deontay Wilder's power punching. But just before those two debates was Sergey Kovalov's comments that he made on Instagram Live while he was driving in Russia about calling all of us ignoramuses, ignorami, I don't know what the word is, but it's just hilarious to say that we are all stupid for thinking that he could win this fight, and he cited the weight, which I don't understand, because he had just fought a couple weeks before, and you would think that he wouldn't balloon up. But what my question for you is, why do fighters insist on making excuses after fights that they lost?
First of all, that's hilarious, because that was his weight class. Canelo was the one coming up 2 weight classes. Why do fighters make excuses? Well, that's because as a fighter, you need to market yourself to get the big fights and therefore the big payday. So if you don't look good, people are going to say that you don't deserve the next big fight, and then you won't get the payday. So you want to make an excuse and say, hey, I actually didn't look good because of X. Now, we all remember after the big Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, there's Pacquiao at the post-fight press conference. His hand is on his shoulder, you know, that visual.
Right, and you didn't hear about it in the lead-up at all.
We didn't hear about it in the lead-up. Now, he probably was injured, and it probably is a legitimate reason, but it comes out as an excuse. The other big one we have to talk about, of course, David Haye and the toe. If you remember, David Haye fought Vladimir Klitschko in Germany. David Haye talked a lot of smack before the fight. He did absolutely nothing in the fight, and afterwards he stood on the table at the post-fight press conference and said, "Look at my toe. I hurt my toe." Yeah. So those are some famous excuses in boxing. We also have to look at, there's a lot of guys who don't make excuses, and that is admirable.
Yeah, I mean, guys like, look, just comes to mind right away is Regis Prograis after his fight with Josh Taylor. Did not cry about it. It was a very close fight, but to me, I get more respect about that fighter. I want to see him fight again. I'm going to pull out right here some of the infamous excuses from Sergey Kovalev. His first fight against Ward, he says he ran out of gas. I mean, that's relatable. I mean, we go outside right now and he ran around the block. I'd run out of gas. So I can kind of relate to that one. Second one, he blamed the low blows as being the main reason he lost. But then you talked about some all-time great excuses. How about this one? He says that John David Jackson poisoned him in the corner. He put something in his water bottle that shut him down. It wasn't vodka, because that would probably made him fight a little bit better. But it's just unbelievable. Then, you know, eventually poisoned. He said the Eliter Alvarez fight, he overtrained. But, you know, boxing has so many stories of these guys saying these excuses. You know, Miguel Cotto, I love Miguel Cotto, one of my favorite all-time fighters. But you ask him about a loss that he had in his career, he'll come up with an excuse every day. Same thing with Marco Antonio Barrera. Same thing with Marquez. These guys who never say that they simply lost the fight. I guess it's because they're stubborn, and like you said, it's a marketing thing to make them want to get that next fight.
You always hear that, oh, I had a bad camp, my sparring wasn't good. Leo Santa Cruz actually just won his fight. It was a close fight, and then he came out and said, I'm not going to make excuses, but something happened in camp. Well, are you kind of making an excuse because you're telling us that something happened in camp? The other one I want to go away is every time I see a fighter do poorly, I hear his promoter say, oh, he had the flu leading up.
Yeah, everyone had the flu.
He had the flu. It's something you can't prove. It seems like everyone who had a bad performance had the flu.
Listen,
I want that to go away.
I'm suffering from the flu-like symptoms for this show.
That explains your performance here
today. If we have a bad show, it's because I had the flu.
All right, last topic here. So it's Thanksgiving week. We obviously have to talk about what we are thankful for. So Dan, what are you thankful for?
I mean, there's so many things to be thankful for this holiday season, and I have a few that I wrote down here, and these are some things that I just, when I think about the boxing world and what I'm thankful for, and these are the ones that come to mind. Sure. Manny Pacquiao's left hand, the mute button on Twitter, PBC on Fox, 8 p.m. starts, Steve Smogercam on DAZN, Nico Macias, BoxRec, Sean Porter's giant Windsor knots, Richard Dwyer, Marcos Maidana's stylist, James Bagg Jr., Brian Campbell, and of course, this thankful season, we cannot do this without being thankful for the man, Mr. Al Heyman.
There you go. Wow. Okay, that was a good list there. So mine is a little different. I have Deontay Wilder's right hand.
Oh, I had Manny's left.
There you go.
Right.
So there's the left, there's the right. I have to be thankful for Floyd Mayweather's ego, right? Always inserting himself in the big fight moments and coming out with some kind of crazy announcement. We got to be thankful for CompuBox statistics, right? Don't they tell this story?
They do.
Right? Here's one actually specifically for you. Dan, you said in one of our previous segments you wanted to be a ring man. You wanted to be the first ring card girl as a man.
I kind of take that back.
Yeah, well, I'm very thankful that never happened. That's what I'm thankful for, and I actually hope that never happens. I'm also thankful for the way that boxing is going right now. It's on a lot of different networks, a lot of different platforms. You can kind of see it so many places. So let's hope that the sport keeps growing and we keep getting big matchups. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I know I make jokes, and these are obviously, I am thankful for Steve Smogercam. I am thankful for Sean Porter's giant neckties. But in all honesty, like, I am thankful that boxing is on every weekend. We are boxing nuts. The people that watch every week love the sport of boxing, and I know it takes a little bit out of your wallet to have a subscription to DAZN, to pay for pay-per-views, to pay for ESPN Plus, and no one gets treated worse than the boxing fans in the sports world. So I am thankful that there is boxing on pretty much every single weekend. I gotta work on them too, and that's another thing that I'm thankful for, to be able to work in the sport of boxing and to be able to work with my brother and my dad and to do this show here with you. So on a personal note, there are some things that I am thankful for, but mostly I'm really thankful for Sean Porter's necktie.
There you go. And just like you said, to get a little bit serious, we're lucky that we get to work in this sport, and I'm thankful for this show, that we can debate and talk boxing, and all our fans and supporters of this show, the people who tune in to
the David Cushings of the world.
Yes,
the Tim Boxeos of the world.
Yeah, special shout out to Tim and David and all our great fans who watch the Standing 8 Count debate show. I think we're all thankful for that.
So what's the plan now for Thanksgiving for you? You said you're going to stay in the city. How do you attack the meal? Like, what do you go for? I
mean, you got to go all in on the meal, right? So you got the plate and you want to kind of stack the food as high as you... Yeah, I don't like to do seconds and thirds. I want my first plate to kind of be as high so I can barely see over it. And then you kind of got the football in the back, you got the family around, so that's my game plan. What's yours?
I don't know if anyone cares, but recently I've changed. I'm gluten-free now. I'm officially washed up at over the age of 30, 32 years old. Can't eat gluten now, so that's going to change how I go about it. Maybe I'll divulge and kind of give in and then just have to worry about it later. I'm sorry to my family that's to spend the next possible days with me if I start eating gluten and dairy. But there it is. I am thankful for a lot of things. I'm thankful for the Standing 8 Count here. It's been a great one with you, Curran Bhatia. We'll be back, though. We're going to come back for another Standing 8 Count segment. And it's going to be after Wilder. Not after Wilder. It's going to be after Ruiz and Josh. There's going to be a lot to talk about as heading into the final end of the year. So boxing is starting to round into form here heading into the next decade, but there's still some big fights on the schedule as well.